Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you went in there? Or maybe you've struggled to remember someone's name, even though you know it's right on the tip of your tongue. If you've ever had those little senior moments, you're not alone. But here's the good news: memory lapses don't have to be a normal part of aging. And they definitely don't mean you're on your way to Alzheimer's. In fact, your brain has an incredible ability to stay sharp, focused, and full of energy if you give it the right fuel. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Because just like your body, your brain depends on the food you eat. The right foods can boost memory, improve focus, and even help protect against Alzheimer's and dementia. And the best part? These aren't fancy, hard-to-find ingredients. They're simple, delicious, and easy to add to your meals every day. So, grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's talk about how you can nourish your brain and keep it young for years to come. Now, let's start with one of the most powerful brain foods out there, something you probably already have in your kitchen. Blueberries. Yes, those tiny little berries pack a huge punch when it comes to brain health. Scientists actually call them brain berries, and for good reason. They're loaded with antioxidants, which help protect your brain cells from damage. Think of it like this: as we age, our brains are constantly under attack from something called oxidative stress. It's what happens when harmful molecules, called free radicals, start to build up in our system. Over time, they can damage brain cells and lead to memory loss. But blueberries act like a shield, fighting off those harmful molecules and keeping your brain strong. And there's more. Studies have shown that eating blueberries regularly can actually improve memory and even slow down age-related cognitive decline. In one study, older adults who ate blueberries every day for just 12 weeks saw significant improvements in their memory and focus. Imagine what could happen if you made them a regular part of your diet. The best part? They're so easy to add to your routine. You can toss them into oatmeal, blend them into a smoothie, or just snack on a handful in the afternoon. Now, if blueberries are the memory-boosting superheroes, then the next food on our list is like rocket fuel for your brain. Fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, these fish are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, which are absolutely essential for brain health. You see, about 60% of your brain is made up of fat, and a huge portion of that fat is omega-3s. Your brain actually needs them to function properly. Omega-3s help build and repair brain cells, and they also reduce inflammation, one of the key drivers of Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. In fact, research shows that people who eat fish regularly have a significantly lower risk of cognitive decline. And if you're thinking, "But I don't like fish," don't worry. You don't have to eat it every day. Even having fatty fish 2 to 3 times a week can make a big difference. And if fish really isn't your thing, you can still get omega-3s from sources like walnuts, flax seeds, and chia seeds. Now, we've talked about 2 powerhouse foods, blueberries and fatty fish, but what about something to drink? There's one beverage that's been linked to better brain function, faster reaction times, and even a lower risk of Alzheimer's. Green tea. This simple, soothing drink is packed with compounds that boost brain power. One of them is called L-theanine, which helps you stay calm and focused at the same time. That's why people who drink green tea often feel more alert, but without the jittery feeling that coffee sometimes causes. And then there are the antioxidants, particularly one called EGCG. This powerful compound helps protect brain cells from damage and even promotes the growth of new neurons. Yes, you heard that right, your brain can grow new cells, even as you age. Just imagine sipping on a warm cup of green tea in the morning, knowing that you're not just enjoying a relaxing moment, you're actually strengthening your brain with every sip. But what about foods that can actually help clear out harmful toxins from the brain? There's one in particular that does just that. And you might already have it sitting in your spice rack. Turmeric. That golden yellow spice that gives curry its color isn't just for flavor, it's one of the most powerful brain-boosting foods on the planet. And it's all because of one special compound, curcumin. Curcumin has been studied extensively for its effects on the brain, and what scientists have found is incredible. It helps clear out harmful plaques that can build up in the brain, plaques that are strongly linked to Alzheimer's disease. It also reduces inflammation, which plays a big role in memory loss and cognitive decline. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Curcumin can actually boost levels of a hormone called BDNF, which stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as a kind of miracle-grow for your brain. It helps new brain cells grow, strengthens connections between them, and keeps your memory sharp as you age. Now, before you start dumping turmeric on everything you eat, there's one little trick to getting the most out of it: pair it with black pepper. Black pepper contains a compound called piperine, which helps your body absorb curcumin up to 2,000% more effectively. So if you're using turmeric in your cooking, just add a dash of black pepper to unlock its full potential. You can sprinkle turmeric into soups, stir it into scrambled eggs, or even mix it into a cup of warm milk with honey for a soothing, brain-boosting drink. Now, let's move on to something you might already be eating but didn't know was working wonders for your brain. Dark chocolate. Yes, you heard that right. Chocolate, real, high-quality dark chocolate, is actually good for your brain. But before you reach for a candy bar, let's talk about why. Dark chocolate contains flavonoids, which are powerful antioxidants that help increase blood flow to the brain. More blood flow means more oxygen and nutrients, which helps improve memory, focus, and problem-solving skills. And here's something fascinating: eating dark chocolate actually triggers the release of endorphins and serotonin, the chemicals that make you feel happy. That's why a little bit of chocolate can instantly lift your mood. But there's a catch. Not all chocolate is created equal. To get the brain benefits, you need to choose dark chocolate with at least 70% cocoa or higher. The higher the percentage, the more flavonoids and less sugar. A small piece, about an ounce, of high-quality dark chocolate a few times a week can do wonders for your brain. Now, we've talked about some amazing foods so far, but there's another brain-saving powerhouse that often gets overlooked. Leafy greens. Spinach, kale, collard greens, these aren't just good for your body, they're essential for your brain. Studies have found that people who eat just one serving of leafy greens per day have the memory and cognitive function of someone 11 years younger than those who don't. The secret? Leafy greens are packed with folate, vitamin K, and lutein, all of which help slow cognitive decline and keep your brain functioning at its best. If you're not a big fan of salads, don't worry, there are plenty of ways to sneak more greens into your meals. Toss a handful of spinach into your morning smoothie, sauté some kale with garlic and olive oil for a delicious side dish, or mix collard greens into soups and stews. Now, so far, we've covered some of the best foods to protect your brain. But what about foods that actually help fuel it, giving you the energy, focus, and mental clarity you need every day? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. If you've ever had one of those sluggish mornings where your brain just feels foggy, like you're running on low battery, you're not alone. A lot of people think that feeling slow or forgetful is just a part of aging, but it doesn't have to be. The truth is, your brain needs fuel, just like a car needs gas. And the quality of that fuel makes all the difference. So, what's one of the best brain-fueling foods? Nuts. Almonds, walnuts, cashews, these little powerhouses are packed with healthy fats, vitamin E, and antioxidants that help keep your brain sharp. In fact, studies show that people who eat nuts regularly have better cognitive function as they age. But when it comes to brain health, one nut stands out above the rest: walnuts. If you've ever looked closely at a walnut, you might notice something interesting. It actually looks like a tiny brain. And that's no coincidence. Walnuts are the richest nut source of omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential for brain function. They help improve memory, reduce inflammation, and even lower the risk of Alzheimer's. Just a small handful of walnuts a day, about 1 ounce, is enough to give your brain a boost. You can sprinkle them on yogurt, mix them into oatmeal, or just eat them as a snack. Now, nuts are great for long-term brain health, but what about something that gives you an instant mental boost? Something that wakes up your brain, sharpens your focus, and helps you think more clearly? That's where eggs come in. Eggs are loaded with a nutrient called choline, which is like superfood for your brain cells. Your brain needs choline to produce a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which helps with memory and learning. And yet, most people don't get enough choline in their diet. That's why eggs, especially the yolks, are so important. Eating eggs regularly has been linked to better brain function and even a lower risk of dementia. Plus, they're one of the most versatile foods out there. Scrambled, boiled, poached, there's no wrong way to eat them. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but what about cholesterol? Here's the truth, the cholesterol in eggs doesn't raise your blood cholesterol the way we once thought. In fact, eggs can actually increase your levels of good cholesterol, which helps protect your brain and heart. So, unless your doctor tells you otherwise, enjoying eggs a few times a week is a great way to keep your brain healthy. Now, let's talk about something a little different. We've covered foods that protect the brain, boost memory, and fuel mental energy. But what about something that helps clean the brain, flushing out toxins and keeping it running smoothly? Believe it or not, one of the most powerful brain-cleansing foods is something so simple, yet so often overlooked: water. That's right, staying hydrated is one of the easiest and most important things you can do for your brain. Your brain is about 75% water, and even mild dehydration can cause brain fog, memory problems, and trouble concentrating. Think about it. Have you ever gone a few hours without drinking water and suddenly felt tired or sluggish? That's because your brain needs water to function. It helps deliver nutrients to brain cells, removes waste, and even plays a role in preventing dementia. So, how much water should you be drinking? A good rule of thumb is 8 glasses a day, but the best way to tell if you're drinking enough is simple: check your urine. If it's dark yellow, you need more water. If it's light and clear, you're doing great. And if you find plain water boring, try adding a slice of lemon, cucumber, or even a few berries for flavor. Herbal teas and water-rich foods like cucumbers and watermelon can also help keep you hydrated. Now, we've covered a lot so far, but there's still one more crucial piece of the puzzle. Because while eating the right foods can work wonders for your brain, there's something just as important as what you eat, and that's what you avoid. We've talked about the best foods for keeping your brain sharp: blueberries, fatty fish, nuts, eggs, and even dark chocolate. But here's the thing, no matter how many brain-boosting foods you eat, they can only do so much if you're also eating foods that work against your brain. Yes, just like there are foods that protect your memory, there are also foods that speed up cognitive decline, drain your mental energy, and even increase your risk of Alzheimer's. And unfortunately, some of these foods are so common that most people eat them every single day without realizing the damage they're doing. Let's start with one of the biggest brain enemies out there: refined sugar. Now, I know sugar can be hard to resist. It's in everything, from pastries to sodas to even so-called healthy cereals. But here's the problem: too much sugar causes inflammation in the brain, which has been directly linked to memory loss and cognitive decline. Think of it like this: imagine your brain is a clean, well-functioning machine. Every time you eat sugar, it's like pouring sticky syrup into the gears. Over time, the gears slow down, things stop working as smoothly, and your memory and focus start to suffer. And it gets worse. Research has shown that high blood sugar levels actually shrink the brain, particularly in areas responsible for memory. In fact, Alzheimer's is sometimes called type 3 diabetes because of how closely it's linked to poor blood sugar control. Now, does that mean you have to give up sugar completely? No. But it does mean being mindful of how much you're eating. The worst culprits are processed sugars, things like white bread, candy, soda, and packaged snacks. But natural sugars, like those found in fruit, come with fiber and nutrients that slow down their impact on the brain. So, if you have a sweet tooth, try swapping out processed sugar for natural alternatives like honey, dates, or dark chocolate with at least 70% cocoa. Now, if sugar is one of the worst things for your brain, the next one is just as bad, if not worse. Highly processed foods. Think about all the packaged foods lining grocery store shelves: chips, instant noodles, frozen meals, fast food. These are what scientists call ultra-processed foods, and they've been directly linked to cognitive decline. Why? Because these foods are loaded with preservatives, artificial additives, and unhealthy fats that can cause chronic inflammation in the brain. And when inflammation builds up over time, it can actually kill brain cells. In one major study, people who ate a diet high in ultra-processed foods had a 25% faster decline in memory and cognitive function compared to those who ate mostly whole, natural foods. But the good news? Making small changes can have a huge impact. If you're used to eating processed foods, start by replacing one processed meal a day with something whole and natural, like swapping out white bread for whole grain, or choosing homemade meals over frozen dinners. Now, we've talked about what not to eat, but there's one more category of foods we need to discuss, because these aren't just bad for your brain, they can actually speed up Alzheimer's. And they're hiding in plain sight. Trans fats. These are the worst kind of fats for your brain. Trans fats are found in margarine, fried foods, store-bought pastries, and even some coffee creamers. They're created through a process called hydrogenation, which makes oils more stable but also extremely toxic to the brain. Studies show that people who eat a lot of trans fats have higher rates of brain shrinkage, memory problems, and even a higher risk of dementia. So, how do you avoid them? Start by checking food labels. If you see partially hydrogenated oil listed as an ingredient, put it back on the shelf. Instead, choose healthy fats like olive oil, avocados, and nuts, which actually help protect your brain. Alright, so now we know what foods to avoid, but what if you've already been eating these foods for years? Is it too late to reverse the damage? Not at all. In fact, there's one simple thing you can start doing right now to help flush toxins out of your brain and reset your memory, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. If you've been eating processed foods, too much sugar, or unhealthy fats for years, you might be wondering, is it too late to undo the damage? The answer is no. Your brain has an incredible ability to heal, grow, and even rewire itself if you give it the right tools. One of the most powerful ways to help your brain flush out toxins and repair itself is through something called brain detoxing. And no, this isn't some trendy juice cleanse or magic pill. Your brain already has its own built-in detox system, it just needs the right support to function at its best. So, how do you activate this natural brain cleaning process? It starts with something surprisingly simple. Intermittent fasting. Now, before you worry, this doesn't mean starving yourself. It just means giving your brain a break from constant eating so it has time to clear out waste. Here's how it works. When you stop eating for several hours, especially overnight, your brain activates a process called autophagy. Think of it like your brain's cleanup crew. It removes damaged cells, clears out harmful plaques, and makes room for new, healthy brain cells to grow. Studies show that fasting can actually reduce the risk of Alzheimer's by lowering inflammation and helping brain cells stay strong. And the best part? You don't have to go a whole day without food. One of the easiest ways to practice intermittent fasting is to simply stop eating a few hours before bed and wait until later in the morning to have your first meal. For example, if you finish dinner at 7 p.m., try having breakfast around 9 or 10 a.m. the next day. That gives your brain about 14 hours to reset, without you even realizing it. Of course, everyone's body is different, so listen to what feels right for you. Even just waiting an extra hour or two in the morning before eating can help kickstart your brain's natural detox process. Now, fasting helps clean the brain, but what about keeping it strong and resilient? That's where one of the most important brain-boosting nutrients comes in. Magnesium. Magnesium is often called the relaxation mineral, but it's also a critical nutrient for brain function. It helps your neurons communicate, reduces stress, and even protects against memory loss and brain aging. The problem? Most people aren't getting enough magnesium, especially as they get older. That's why adding more magnesium-rich foods to your diet can have a huge impact on brain health. So, where do you get it? Some of the best sources of magnesium include pumpkin seeds, almonds, spinach, avocado, and dark chocolate. Yes, another reason to enjoy that brain-friendly treat. And if you ever struggle with brain fog, stress, or trouble sleeping, magnesium might be exactly what you need. A simple way to increase your intake is by adding a handful of nuts and seeds to your daily routine, or even enjoying a cup of magnesium-rich herbal tea like chamomile before bed. Now, there's one more secret ingredient for keeping your brain young, something that most people overlook. And the best part? You don't even have to eat it, you just have to do it. What is it? Movement. Exercise isn't just about staying fit, it's one of the most powerful ways to prevent memory loss and boost brain function. In fact, moving your body increases blood flow to the brain, delivers more oxygen, and even helps grow new brain cells. And no, you don't need to run marathons or lift heavy weights. Even simple activities like walking, dancing, or gardening can make a big difference. Studies show that just 30 minutes of movement a day, whether it's a brisk walk or some light stretching, can lower your risk of dementia by up to 40%. The key is consistency. Find something you enjoy, whether it's walking with a friend, dancing to music, or stretching in the morning, and make it a daily habit. Your brain will thank you for it. Now, let's take a step back for a moment. We've covered a lot of powerful ways to protect your brain. Eating brain-boosting foods like blueberries, walnuts, fatty fish, and leafy greens. Cutting out harmful foods like processed sugar and trans fats. Practicing intermittent fasting to help your brain clear out toxins. Getting more magnesium to improve memory and focus. Staying active to keep your brain sharp and strong. But here's the most important thing to remember, it's never too late to start. Even if you only make one small change, like adding more greens to your meals, drinking more water, or taking a daily walk, your brain will feel the difference. So, don't wait. Start today. Because every bite of healthy food, every step you take, and every good habit you build is an investment in your future, your memory, and your happiness. And remember, your brain is a muscle. The more you take care of it, the stronger and sharper it will stay. So here's to living a long, vibrant life, one where your mind stays just as young as your spirit. If you found this helpful, let me know in the comments. Have you tried any of these brain-boosting tips? And if you want more easy ways to keep your brain healthy, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. Here's to a sharper, healthier brain at any age.